Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, guys. I know it's been a while. So, our main focus today is using arrays. So, I know so far you've been using variables to store data. But then our main question is what will happen if you want to store 100 variables, or maybe if you want to create 100 variables of the same data type? And that's when you'll have to use an array. So, an array will make your life easier. Let's assume that you have to create a program that will store 100 scores. Just imagine you have to say team score 1 as maybe the data type is a whole number, which is an integer. Maybe assign say 60. Just imagine if you are supposed to the spelling's wrong for score. This assume that you're supposed to capture 100 scores, so it's going to be pointless to deem score 2, score 3 until score 5. So guys, if you have a variable like you have related groups of variables that have the same data type, you can declare what an array variable. So an array will contain, doesn't matter, as long as you specify how many values your array must contain, then doesn't matter, as long as your variables that you're trying to store must have the same data type. Let's say you say dim. So this is the syntax for declaring what an array. So it's dim, the name of your array, maybe it's going to hold score, okay? Dim score. Then don't forget the parentheses, this thing, which most of you know them as brackets. So this is how you declare what an array. Then what the data type of your array is to store scores as integer. So, and there are two ways, guys, to declare an array. To declare a populated array, which an array that you declare initialize values is this way. You will say and whatever that you're going to store, you must put it inside what the curly brackets. So remember, you're storing what integers. Integers don't have to put them inside what quotation mark inside what our curly brackets. So let's say our first score is 2. This is our score here. So our score consists of how many elements? Our score consists of how many elements? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is what? This is your score array variable, and it consists of what? 8 elements. So yeah, so let's say you want to display a certain element inside your array. So it's simple. You want to use a message box for this case. If you want to display, you call what the name of your array in brackets. So guys, inside these brackets, you'll specify the subscript or a position of that particular element that you want to display from your array. Let's say you want to display element number 1. Guys, element number 1 is at subscript 0. You get it? Element number 1 is at subscript 0 or index 0. So guys, when you want to display something, you start counting from 0. So if maybe your variable has 100 elements, you know the highest index is what? Is 99, because always minus 1. So there is it. Let's try to display it. Let's see what is stored at R. R score position was 0. So you see 2 is stored. So it's simple. Even if you go to, let's say you want to display 7. 7 is at index at which subscript or index? Because if you start from 2, it's going to be 0, 1, 2. So you have to write what? Subscript number 2 or index number 2. So yeah. Then if you guys are using the latest Visual Studio, you don't have to always close your apps when you're editing. Just can go to this button that is a hot reload here. Click hot reload, then go back to your program and test. So you see, at index number 2, you have what? We have 7. Make sure, guys, you don't misuse this index, or maybe sometimes you think or index and element, they are the one the same thing. They're not the same. If 2 is at element number 1, it means it is at index 0. If 3 is at element number 2, it means it is at index or subscript number 2. So we get it. That's how it works, guys. So make sure. So 2 here is at index what? 1. Subscript 0 or index position is 0. So that's no index and subscript. Yeah. They're not one and the same thing, but then just assume that that's one and the same thing, index and subscript. So 3 is at element number 2, which is either subscript 1 or index 1. So make sure you display. So let's say, guys, you want to display, how many elements do you have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when I just said, okay, I want to display the last element, you write 8 here. You'll see what your program will do. You see? out of range exception. So it said the index was outside the bounds of an array. So guys, if you have 8 elements, it doesn't mean, or since you have 8 elements, the highest index or the highest subscript is what? Is 8. You see, when we deal with arrays, or your index must always be the highest subscript, or your highest index always less than the number of elements. So your highest index in this case is what? It's 7. Make sure 7. The highest index is 7. So if you have 100 elements, if you want to display the last element, if you have 100 elements, it's going to be 99. So make sure, guys, you understand this concept. And guys, the good thing about array is that you can replace a certain value. So if you want to, let's say you want to replace here at index number 2, which is 0, 1, 2. At index number 2, you have what? We have 7. So let's say you want to replace 7, right? So 7 is at index at which position? 7 is at index number 2 or subscript number 2. Then what value do you want to replace 7 with? Just write it here. Then you display, let's do something of this nature. We're going to say message box. Okay. Underscore. And we display something at index number 2 before we change it. Okay? Then now I want to display after we change it. Okay? Underscore. Then now we already changed it. Okay? So now you have to display. So initially at index number 2 you have 7, because when you're using index or subscript, we count from what? From 0, 0, 1, 2. Yeah. So at index number 2 you have what? 7. So and then here we're going to display the initial value that was there at position number 2, which was 7. Then we are going to replace whatever value that is at index 2, which is 7, with what? With 6 here. Then we display that value. So let's run our program and see what's going to pop up. So you see, the first message box you get 7, and the second message box you get what? 6. So we can even change the value. Let's change and write 59 here. So we close, reload with our program. We test the initial value at index number 2 is 7, and you replace it with what? With 59. So guys, make sure you understand how this works, guys. This is how it works. This is how you replace a certain value. And guys, when you replace a value, you replace that value. Doesn't mean it's going to add an index 2. It's not going to add anything. You want to replace that certain value. So, and you can also do calculation inside arrays if you want to. So make sure. For now, let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the basics of how arrays works and stuff. So because for now, the only basic calculation that you can do, let's say you want to increase this here, you have 10, right? And this 10 you want to increase it by 2. You have to specify. Okay, you have to specify. Okay, fine. That 10 is at which index you count. From 2 here is index 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. So 10 is at index 3. You say, okay, at index 3, you come again and be like, whatever value that is at index 3, I want to add it with what? With 10. So when you say you must get what? You must get 20 in this particular thing. So let's say our message box, before adding, before you add, it's at index 3, right? I want to display the value at index 3 before the addition. And you also want to display the message, not the message, but the score at index 3 after what? After addition. So yeah, this one is simple. The statement here is simple. It said whatever value that is at index number 3, we want to add it with what? With 10. Then what? Then assign it back to what? To index number 3. So that means there's going to be, it's supposed to be, what value is at index 3 is 10, I guess. So 10 plus 10 is what? Is 20. So we're supposed to get here, you must get 20, not 10, as soon as we are done with the calculation. So hot reload again, go to our program. So you see at index number 3 we have what? 10. Then now we have what? 20. That's how you do calculation. Sometimes if you want to do subtraction, you can also do subtraction. Yeah. Let's say subtract 5. So 10 minus 5 is supposed to get what? You see, we have 10. 10 minus 5 is what? Is 5. So yeah, that's how it works, guys. That's how you do calculation, basic calculation. You can also And if maybe you want to increase all the elements inside this array with 5 or something, so you can use what? Loops. For now, let's not worry about it. Our next video, we're going to do a revision of loops and also use loops to do what? To add all the values at the same time, to also display all the values at the same time. So yeah, that's how it works, guys. Make sure whatever, even if you want to display name, it's simple. You can say dim r name, sire. Can I just call r names? Okay, maybe let's say, guys, okay, let's look at this thing. I want to explain something here. Remember, inside this particular bracket, that's where you specify how many elements you want to store inside what? Inside your array. So if you declare your array and initialize it at the same time, which you call it populating the array, there's no need to write the number here because you're going to get an error. You see, there's no need for you to do that. So, but then if you have your program must store 100 students, right? Then eventually you're not going to store those 100 students at the same time. Maybe today you're going to store 5, tomorrow store 6. So it's going to be advisable for you to specify, if I want to store 10 students, I must write 9, because our index, our subscript, will start counting from 0. So if you want to store 100 students, you must write 99. If you want to store 500 students, you must write 499. So make sure you understand it. So as what? String. You see? As soon as you specify here, well, okay, my array must store how many elements? 10 elements. That's your array. You must store what? 10 elements. And the main reason we write 9 here is because if you have 10 elements, that means your highest index is going to be what? It's going to be 9. And you start counting from 0. So yeah, that's how it works. And let's say you want to assign a string. Okay, now this thing, our array variable is empty. So if you want to assign a simple r name, at which position do you want to assign? We're going to start at 0. So our element 1 will be at position 0 or subscript 0 or index 0. What do you want to assign? Remember, you're assigning a string, so you must include what? Quotation mark. Quotation marks. So make sure you enclose your strings at what? Quotation mark. So it's simple. Then if you want to store another name, you see here, this one is element number 2. Element number 2 is always at subscript 1. Right? So you'll be like here. That's how it works. Then just display. Let's say you want to display. If you want to display here, what are you displaying? Name here. Name. So if you want to display element number 2, you write index what? Or subscript what? 1. Then no problem. I mean. Then you do what? We test our program, you see. So you can see what goes to is at what? If you wrote 1 here, that's what? It's element number 2, that's subscript number 1. It's element number 1, that's subscript 0 or index 0. Make sure you don't forget. Because now just imagine if you have to add 100 students, right? So it's not, you're not going to say R, name, or A. You're going to use loops again. So loops will help you. So on our next program, on our next video, that's when I'll show you how we use loops. So for now, just understand this basics. So if you want to, you can also replace this particular thing. Let's say you want to replace whatever value that's at R1. You can also be like, okay, you can say R name and be like, okay, I want to replace goes through with Mr. X, right? So it's simple. Then you display, be like, okay, fine. I don't know why I even wrote this particular thing here. Like, okay, message box. Let's display what? Our new value here. So 1. So now let's display hot reload. So now you put our program here, we test. You see, on this line, on this particular line, you have what? It goes through back. And when we said, okay, fine, on goes through at index number 1, which is element number 2, we replace it with Mr. X. You see, now we have Mr. X. That's how it works, guys. So the more you practice, the more it will get better. So just know, practice these basics. Then as soon as you understand them, we're going to mix them with arrays so it can be easier for us to display all the elements at the same time and also be allowed to enter elements like as you want. So yeah. Bye guys, bye guys, bye guys. Practice makes better. So make sure guys you are comfortable with programming. Don't watch this video and after watching this video you be like, I know it, then somebody relax. No, practice, 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 practice. Practice with characters. Yeah, practice with other, practice with double, maybe if you include prices, like practice with other data types. Like I don't practice with a boolean. Like I don't know why you want to do that, but I don't. So guys, bye guys.